The exact same people I walked home from school with every single day during my childhood are the exact same people that I'm still friends with to this day. Like, I mean, talking every single day. And that's what happens when you're born as a Gen Z and you were raised offline. And then the cool part is that you got to be raised online when you became a teenager. And Gen Z is pretty much like 1998 to 2011. I don't know, something around there. But if you're the older Gen Z, so I'm 1999, we basically got to experience the both worlds. I don't know how else to put it. The whole childhood was offline, and then the teenage years were online, and that was actually super cool. This is actually why I think that people born during this time, close to the 2000s, maybe just 1990 something, like much closer to that Gen Z generation, I think that's probably the best childhood you could have. It's just my opinion, but check this out, right? You guys still remember, I have some notes here, you guys still remember what it's like when you had to knock on your friend's door to get them to play outside. And this is also true for anyone who's older, like millennial as well, and older, because kids didn't have phones. How do you have a phone as a kid? And not only that, even if I did get a phone, I was one of the kids that got a phone early. It was not a smartphone, and most of the other kids didn't have phones, so what was the point? It's not like you can call them because they don't have a number. And I remember this one time, I was in grade 6, and my closest friend actually to this day, this is kind of how we became friends, and he just showed up at my house one day. That's all I can say. And I didn't even live in a house. I lived in an apartment building on the 8th floor. It was, the weirdest thing is that it was actually completely normal to show up at someone's house, stalk where they live. So a person that you want to be friends with, just watch where they enter as you're walking home as well, because you're kind of walking the same way. And then when you want to play with them, you pull up to their house. So I imagine my friend saw where I go in, into the building. He went inside, had to use the little thing you call with, whatever, what is that called? I don't know, the thing that lets you in. Saw my last name, obviously, because he learned my last name from school, and saw the floor I live on, and eventually was able to make it up there. And at some point, my mom answers the door, and she's like, Maxim, your friend is here to play with you. And I'm like, a friend? I don't have any friends. What do you mean? I just moved here, right? And I was like, oh, it's this guy. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's go outside, whatever. And that's how we got a hold of each other, because how do we communicate? My friend has a family computer. You guys remember what it's like playing on the family PC? Like, this guy had it in the middle of his living room. So whenever we talked about playing games, he's like, no, I can't play that game because my parents will see and it's too violent or whatever. And I was like, you play games in front of your parents? That is insane. But that was normal. Right? You didn't have 3 computers in your house. You had like 1 computer, and that's where you played on. And it was very similar for me, but I just got my computer a little bit earlier. And the coolest thing is you would end up doing both. So for example, we would go home together, from school, and we would jump on Minecraft. We'd play Minecraft. It was brand new at the time. It was 2013 probably, when we were playing it, and we would play Minecraft together, and suddenly my friend would log off out of nowhere because, as I found out 10 minutes later, because he showed up at my door, he was like, yeah, let's go outside. My parents told me, well, my dad shut off my computer because I have played too much today. Back in the day when they said computers are bad for you, well, still kind of, spending too much time playing video games kind of is still bad, but, to each their own. But before, parents controlled that. So they would just shut off the computer, enough gaming for you, and you would just sit there like, what do I do now? So you would play 1 to 2 hours a day, and then your friend, my friend would show up at the door, and we'd be like, let's go outside. And I'm like, well, I still have enough computer time because, well, I also had my own computer, but I could also play when my parents weren't home. So they didn't actually know how to keep track of my time because I just played when they weren't home. But the point is, I was like, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Let's go outside. And so we would go out, ride our bikes, and that's another thing. That there's this old image where, probably people have these pictures where there's a bunch of bikes in front of a house, because how did we get around as kids? We biked everywhere, literally everywhere. And not only is that good for you, but that's besides the point. We didn't care about that. It's just how we got around. That was our cars. You know, it feels like a gang when you're all biking with the friend group. And we would go and raid the local Dollarama, the dollar store, because we didn't have money, so we tried to get shit for free. When I mean get shit for free, sometimes as kids, the people working there, they're like, oh, hey, we baked these cookies and you can have them as samples, and we would sample everything. And then we're like, okay, I know this another store, they give free water, and we can sit and they have free sugar packets. Yes, sugar packets. So we would go, I think it was called Salisbury House, whatever that is. We'd park our bikes outside, go in, ask for water, not order anything on the menu, and then take the free sugar packets and start putting it into our water. So we're like, we got flavored water. That is a complete win. And then we would find shopping carts in the parking lot that have a quarter or $1 still inside. What did we do? That was the mission. We found one. We're like, yes, we're fucking rich. We'd find another cart, ram it in there, and take out the thing that locks and get the $1 out. And we're like, we have $1. And sometimes we'd spend it, sometimes we wouldn't. We would just pile it up. And that was how we made money. Like 12-year-olds making money through finding shopping carts, right? And another way was sometimes finding ways to return alcohol bottles, like, beer bottles and stuff. We knew where the store was. And we would ask around different friends if their dads have the collection of bottles, and we would go return it. So many ways you could hustle as a young kid, but that's how we made money. You'd go to 7-Eleven for those Slurpee days and get as much Slurpees as you can, basically. And that was it. It was so simple. So that was most of childhood. You'd play on the play structure outside. Everybody's outside, and you had wars with other friend groups. You would literally fight. Like, you grow up fighting. It's normal. And at school, teachers would try to break it apart, but then you'd just fight after school anyway. And honestly, it was kind of fun because it was exhilarating. Yeah, did some people get hurt? Probably. But it's nothing that crazy. Like, you're not killing people out there, right? But the point is, it was a lot of fun. And you learn to be street smart and all that good stuff. And then, on the other hand, you get to come home maybe in the evening or at night and just play some Minecraft with everyone. How sick is that? And luckily for me, after years of trying, I was able to set up a Minecraft server. And that was the biggest feat. I was like, guys, we're going to play together. Finally, I've tried over and over. Because, when you're 11, you're like, how does anything work? There's no way I can make a Minecraft server work. I didn't even know how. And to be honest, we didn't even play the paid version of Minecraft. We found a cracked version, which is like a free version, and we played single player. But upon figuring out how to get a server running and playing on a cracked version and having to use different programs to connect your connections, basically, that was a huge feat of success, and that was just the best shit ever. And then again, you'd play, and then after you're tired of it, or you're like, okay, it's time to go outside, my parents are getting pissed off, time to go outside. We would even go down to, there was like this place where there was a river and a forest, and it was like a little river. It was small in some parts, so that you could just walk across. We didn't want to walk across it, so we built a bridge. We took a bunch of wood logs, threw them over, and walked over it. Yeah, it's like imagine you're getting to play as like that kid in the dirt, in the mud, in the forest. And then you have this whole online life. You're on Skype with your friends, you're playing all these games. And so you get to experience, if you're that specific part of Gen Z that's right on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z, you get to be in both sides. And honestly, the millennials, who especially the older ones, they probably only got the one side of it, which I think is the better part, where you get to play outside and cultivate all your friendships there. And the younger Gen Z, or whoever comes next, those ones, they never got to play outside. Not to that extent. Even to this day, I remember my sister was going to school, and she moved schools. She's going to grade 6, and I was like, why am I driving you to school? You could walk. It's like probably 20 minutes for you to walk. It's not that crazy. Why are our parents driving you? Why am I driving you? I was like, don't you want to walk to school? And then I was like, look, there is a friend you met on the first day of school, and you guys hit it off, and I see her walking to school. And we were driving past her once. I was like, don't you want to get out of my car right now and just walk with her? This is a missed opportunity. And in her head, she was just like, I don't know. And my sister, she's 14 years younger than me, so she's still a kid, right? And she's like, oh, I haven't thought about that. I was like, that's how you make friends. I was like, do you know this guy? Do you know this friend? She's like, yeah, I know. It's like my friend. I was like, yeah, guess what? This is what we did in grade 6. And now this is us 15 years later. We're still friends. You even got to know him. That's how it happened. And somehow that inspired her. And the next day she was like, I'm biking to school. And I was like, yes. And then she's walking to school with her friend. And you know, when it got cold, Canada, it's cold. Sure, she got rides here and there. But now she bikes to school and walks to school. And I think that's amazing. I think that's a huge step forward. And it's not because I forced her to or anybody pressured her to, because the parents do the opposite. They're like, oh, no, we'll drive you. You know, it's raining today, or it's too hot, it's too sunny. You know, like this, like parents that just too much around the kid, too protective. And I was able to inspire her to make her want to do it herself when she's like, no. And one day I was like, I'm driving you to school, let's go. I don't even know why, but it was for some reason. She had some important event there. And she literally was like, no, I'm calling my mom and I'm going to tell her that I'm not going to have you drive me because I don't want to be driven. And I was like, yes, that's right. And that's how you basically make good friends. That's how you make... All right, it looks like my battery died on the camera. And so I just charged it up. It's been like 30 minutes, but I no longer remember exactly what I was saying or where I left off. So I'm just going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching.